Prepare to stream. Okay. Hello, hello, everybody. We are live again every week, same time, same place. Julie and I are talking about our trip to China, which I think we're both very excited about.
Well, I don't know about you, but I am for sure.
September can't come quick enough.
Agreed.
Let's get through Christmas first. So, a lot of people have been asking and people have been, commenting and reaching out to me because China is not necessarily a place that a lot of people think about going just because they don't know what they don't know, right? And like a lot of people, of course, one of the big questions is food. And I know from people that I've talked to in the past that actually, which I find really sad in a way, don't go to places because of the food. So we want to bust some myths around food too. And they don't like a lot of people, well, don't they eat like grasshoppers and don't they eat, all these again.
The one I always get is, but that's where they eat dog. And it's like, yeah, that's where they eat dog. It's,
It's like, right? So let's bust some myths about that. And let's talk about the amazing hand-pulled noodles, for example, or other things in China. So, Julie, you take us because you lived there for 20 years.
yes. Well, so the thing is, as most times when people have this preconceived notion of something in China, there's some truth to it, right? There's a saying in the south of China that they eat anything with four legs except for tables and chairs, and anything that flies except for airplanes. So there's some, there are places where snake meat is consumed and rats and all different kinds of things. That is true. Also, dog meat is also consumed. That is also true.
Yeah.
But that's not all there is. And also, that's why we're taking you. That's why we're not dumping you in the country and then run away. We will take you and we will explain. And if people are adventurous and they want to try things that they've never tried, like grasshoppers or like dog meat or something, then that can be arranged. But I'm not the person who will take somebody to a restaurant, serve them something, and then be like, oh, was it good? Yes. Oh, by the way, you just ate some weird part of some weird animal that you never wanted to. I'm not a big fan of that because I think people should go into it with their eyes wide open. Um, that's the first thing. The other thing is Chinese food is so diverse. It is so different depending on where in China you are and also depending on who you're dining with. Because you have the Han Chinese, who are the vast majority of Chinese people, and then you also have ethnic minorities. There's over 50 that are recognized, and each of them has their own culinary tradition. And luckily, we will be visiting Sichuan province, Yunnan province, and also Gansu province. And those are three of the heavily minority populated regions or provinces. And so that means we get Han Chinese food, of course, but we also get others, right? And when we talk about the different minorities, some of them are very small. There are some that even just have a few hundred people left or a few thousand. And others are fairly ubiquitous across China. So when we go into Gansu, in Gansu, there's a lot of Hui. That's they're Muslim, and so that means the rest of China loves to eat pork. And obviously, when you have Muslims, they will not eat pork. They will be heavily into beef and also lamb. And for instance, the hand-pulled noodles that you mentioned in Lanzhou, those are served with a beef broth, and they are so good. And also, you get the show, like it's dinner and a show, because they have a lump of dough, and then they start. It's almost like they want to jump rope with it, and then they put it together again, and they do the same thing, and they put it together, and they do the same thing until they have a whole like your entire big bowl of noodles that they have just strung out right in front of your eyes. And that's pretty fun.
It's so fun. I went to a Uyghur restaurant with my son in Menlo Park, and we had the hand pulled noodles. They were
Yeah.
to die
So
for.
the yes, Wei Wurzu. So the
Mhm.
I don't even know how to pronounce it in English, but Wei Wurzu is the Chinese.
Yep.
They are also Muslim, and they also do the hand pulled noodles. So Hui and Wei Wurzu are the big ones that do halal food. And it's fun because you will always there's a fusion happening as well, right? So you have dishes that the Han Chinese eat in a certain area, and then the minority groups will have their take on it, or vice versa, where you have the same dish but maybe slightly different ingredients or slightly different spices because that is the tradition of that group.
It's so regional for sure. So talk to us a little bit about like, so people say, okay, so they don't eat grass. I mean, they do, but we don't want to eat grasshoppers and we don't want to eat. And, going back to the dogs, I remember being in Hong Kong and I remember walking in the street and there was a student umfrage, like the students were walking around and doing like questioning the tourists. And they said to us, one student asked us, what do you Westerners or why do you Westerners condemn us? They didn't use those words, but whatever, for eating dog meat. And it's andere Länder, andere Sitten, right? It's like, and I was a very strict vegetarian at the time. And so for me, it's like, and I said, well, animal is animal. Of course, I look at it a little differently now, and I'm a lot older. But I don't judge people because it's different. We're just different. But that being said, for those that are interested in joining us on the trip and maybe, do want to eat like not things that they just don't want to eat. Talk about some of the things that are delicious that, do besides lamb and pork and and hand pulled noodles.
Yes. So all of those are a given. There's Sichuan is famous for its spicy food. So there's a lot of spicy dishes. And again, there we are able to accommodate, right? Not every Sichuan food is extremely spicy, and we can find things that are super tasty because Sichuan food used to be the poor man's food, and it started in, I think, the 1920s. There were a lot of Sichuan people coming to Shanghai, and then they started establishing their cuisine there. And now it's the most, like, wherever you go in China, you can find Sichuan food. It's not always super authentic, but wherever you are in China, the tiniest little town, they will have Sichuan food. And so Sichuan food is a given. They do hot pot, which is kind of like a fondue type thing. You have a broth, and then inside of that broth, you will add things. So you can order, and that is so amazing because you can order according to what you like, right? There are certain, and every that's also something that almost every region in China has their own version on their own take on hot pot. The most famous one is the Sichuan hot pot, and that one is spicy. But what they do is they have yin yang guo, which is yin and yang. You've probably heard of that. And basically, so you're looking at the pot, and then there's a piece of metal in the middle that divides it, and then one part of it is spicy and one part is non-spicy. And so
Mhm.
that means we can have the spice lovers and those who are like, oh, I don't like,
Right, right.
maybe not. And we can all eat together. And so you have this big pot in the middle, you have the two kinds of broth, and then you order different vegetables, you order different meats, they have these like shrimp meat that you put in there, and then you have little shrimp balls that come out. You have all sorts of things. And again, this can be customized, right? We will go through everything that's there. Um, I I'm I love tofu, and don't like, not Western tofu, like whatever you get in the West, the like fake meat sausages, whatever. No, none of that. But there are probably 20 different kinds of tofu in China. And we will be happy if you want to join me, because I will be having it. Um, I have been known to order five, six, seven different kinds of tofu for the hot pot because I love it, and they're all different. They all taste very different. So you have the tofu skin, you have frozen tofu, which then turns into kind of like a sponge. You have the smoked tofu that goes in, like all different kinds, right? You have Again, it depends on where you are. And Yunnan, which is another province we're going to, has is famous for another kind of hot pot, which is mushroom hot pot, because they have wild mushrooms that are so good. And the cool thing about mushrooms is you can have them year round because, I mean, you're supposed to have them in season, but mushrooms dry really well. And so you can
Yeah.
have them year round if you want. And their broth for the hot pot is a mushroom soup, basically, like a clear broth with lots and lots of wild mushrooms in it. And then you add whatever you want to it. So those are cool. And those we will definitely have. There is also, it's in for a lot of things, it's not even the main ingredients that can be so different, but it's the way that it's spiced, the spices that are used, right? There are some cuisines that are more sour and like sort of spicy sour. And then there are others that are sweet and spicy. There are some that are sweet and sour. So it's all that is all different. And also you have vegetables, especially where we will be going. Well, Sichuan and Yunnan, less so in Gansu. Gansu is desert country, so they don't have all that many vegetables. So there it will be meat and carbs. Lots of meat and lots of carbs. um,
So real quick, because that's one thing, and you answered it for the most part, because somebody actually asked me that's a vegetarian. Will they
Not a
be able
problem.
to?
Of course they will. We will
Yeah,
find something.
yeah,
We will find something. And that again is not it's not self-evident in China because there are a lot of areas where people love to eat meat and they eat a lot of meat, but there are always vegetarian options. And if worst comes to worst, there's a very strong tradition of having Buddhist restaurants that where everything is vegan
yeah.
because they value all life, and so you'll have a vegan diet. And so if we're in a place where there is no other option, then we'll order her something. We'll order her from a Buddhist restaurant and we'll be fine.
Right. That's awesome. So back to Gansu. That's what we were talking about. So it's meat heavier. So that's also interesting how different regions, not just our culinary, like different spices and different foods, but some are more meat heavy, some are more vegetable heavy. So that's really interesting too.
In general, the Chinese tend to think that if there's no meat in your diet, there's something wrong with you. So they do enjoy their meat
Mhm.
slash fish slash their protein, but uh, yes, the West, but it's also part of it is also geographical reasons, like reasons, right? Because when you have super long, super cold winters, when you have a very harsh climate, then it's in people's best interest to load up on carbs and load up on
Yeah,
protein. And
right.
so that's where that comes from. And Gansu is again, so there we're talking about the not only but predominantly Muslim, and then there it will be meat, but it won't be the pork that you will see in other parts of China.
Right, right. What, and then somebody actually was asking me about like sweets because a lot of people don't hear a lot about Chinese sweets. So somebody was literally asking that the other day when I was in California.
It's a very different concept. So, especially compared to the US, I would say that what counts as a sweet in China will probably not be sweet enough for most Americans. And I say this with so much love. Even I, as a European, when I'm making an American recipe, I'll usually cut the sugar in half.
Absolutely.
So yes, what counts as a sweet is usually not sweet and not as sweet. And the other thing is that there's not this tradition of, so you have your meal and then afterwards you have something sweet. What you will often have is fruit at the end of a meal, but even that depends on the region. So there are some sweets, there are things that are sweet, but they're either eaten for certain festivals or they're only eaten in certain situations, not as an everyday thing. Of course, nowadays, I mean, you have lots of imported stuff as well, right? But the Chinese tend to not enjoy it when it's too sweet. And that leads to fun things as well because they will adapt certain things because they do enjoy things from outside of China. They do enjoy the imported stuff, but then they turn it into a Chinese version of it, right? So you will have um, there's a huge coffee craze in China, and but the some of the coffees are um, sour pork rib coffee, for instance, or there's just they're interesting varieties, and the same goes for sweets. So you will find some Oreos that are just something you would never find in the U.S., and that's okay.
That's right. Exactly. That's why it's nice to explore other, other palettes. And it's so true though. I mean, even the products that are manufactured for the US from Europe, they're complete, like even Moët de Chandon, even the champagne, they're completely manufactured specifically for the US market because the US has a lot sweeter palate. So it's normal. That's yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And the other thing is one of the we always talk about immersion, right? When we're talking about our travel. One of the things that I love to do is take people to a supermarket, let them loose in a supermarket and just go through the aisles with them and be like, oh, by the way, this is that, this is this, this is that. And just have people buy some things and try them out because there's a whole world out there. And the Chinese are big snackers. They're just not, the snacks are usually not as sweet. So you will have a lot more savory snacks and a lot weirder savory snacks. So you can have um, chicken feet, spicy chicken feet in like a vacuum pack that people, if you're on the train, they will take that out and they will start chewing on the chicken foot. Or you have eggs of all sorts that are salted and then preserved that way. You will have all sorts of nuts. You will have, weirdly enough, a lot of snacks are meat based and sweet, a little bit sweet at the same time. So meat and sweets, like meat and sugar goes together.
Interesting. Okay. I did not know that. Okay.
And very often they will look like bonbons, right? Like they will look like some candy, some hard candy. And so you're all like, "Ooh, I like the pretty colors and everything. That looks awesome." You unwrap, you eat, and you're like, beef. Why is this beef
I
and
did not
sweet
expect
and spicy?
That's
So yeah,
awesome. Going into a grocery store is one of my favorite things though to do, into a supermarket and just yeah, exploring. So that'll be awesome to do that where you are and you can explain to us what everything is.
yeah.
I know
And I
when
used to do that. I used to do that when I did city tours in Shenyang. Wet market and supermarket would be two places that I would take people, and we would just go through the aisles and talk about the different things that you can see there. And now in the northeast of China, there are some things that are different, obviously, but in the south, it's a whole different ballgame because they have the vegetables they have are out of this world. There's so many leafy greens, and they're all different, and it's yeah. So usually when I go, and especially if I'm in a place that I haven't lived for eons, then I will ask the sellers. I will ask the ladies and gents there, and I'll be like, okay, this looks good. What's it called? And then they tell me a name, and I'm like, I've never heard of that. And then, so how do I make it? And then you exchange recipes because each of those vegetables will also have a certain way of making them.
nice. So this is a question that also came up and I as maybe after, or if this is your first call. So my father was born and raised in China. So I actually started eating with chopsticks from a very young age because we ate a lot of rice. We ate a lot of China, Asian type, but whatever. And but people actually have asked me, what if I don't use chopsticks? Will they have forks?
I've had people take the airplane plastic spork from the airplane with them, which is, I think, a little overkill. You will always find spoons. So they can often be the what are those called? The porcelain spoons that you know from your Chinese
Right.
restaurant, right? So you will definitely at least have those. Sometimes there's a metal version, but same shape, and chopsticks, and everything is in small pieces. So having a spoon is actually fine.
Right.
So that works. And if somebody's really lost, that's what the supermarket visit is for, because in the supermarket, they do have forks. So you can just buy one and be all set.
So when we go to the supermarket, for those of you who don't want to use chopsticks, get your fork now.
Exactly.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And so I just had another question and I lost it. Yunnan tea. I know it's not food, but it's tea.
No, we need a separate life for that.
Okay, we need a separate live
It's
for the tea.
we do need a separate life for the tea. But yes, tea is its own continent, content
It's
wise,
yes.
because there's so much there. Just whatever you thought was Chinese tea, we're gonna explode out of that preconceived notion and show you how much more it is. Because black tea, for instance, which is called red tea in China, is that's a huge part of Chinese culture. And people outside of China, most people would never think that there would be black tea in China. There's pu'er, which is its own tradition, has a history of thousands of years, and is has been everything from tribute to the emperor to a means of saving and multiplying your money, and a lot of things in between. There's green tea, and there's jasmine tea, and there is white tea, and there's all these different, and then you have what I think in English is called yellow teas. So they're half fermented teas, and there you have everything from something that tastes almost as green as a green tea to something that is darker than the fully fermented pu'er. And we will discover a little bit of all of that, because I personally, if somebody wants to do a tea ceremony, there are tea houses. We can take you to them, and you can do that on on your own if you want. But what I want for the group is that we get an understanding of what different teas there are and what the difference is in taste. Because whether you hold the cup like this or like this, honestly, I don't know how useful that is. But knowing how hot do you brew it, and also can we please, hopefully by the time we go back, no one will be throwing out their tea leaves after one brew,
Yeah.
because that's
Yeah.
we'll talk about that later.
Yeah. I know I got a hole when I was in California. So Connor's big time into coffee, but he's also big time into tea, and he gets his tea from China just because he studied there for a while. And I got a whole education on the different fermenting and the different da 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 da. So I'm looking forward to learning more about that. And in fact, when he saw the itinerary, first thing he said is, "Oh my God, I want," because he was not able to go. He didn't have enough time to go to Yunnan. He says, "I want to go to the tea mountain." He says,
Yeah. Oh,
so
this is definitely for me, that's one of the highlights. Is It's because once you understand about the tea culture, it gives you such a unique and such a deep understanding of Chinese culture
Mhm.
for a lot of things. And I'm super excited to be sharing that.
Yeah. I'm so excited. Like the more, and I was working, and the website, by the way, the website is complete. So I'm going to be posting that today. Sorry for the delay. I was sick and whatnot, but anyway, it's up. The itinerary's up, subject to change. And again, we say it every time. If there's something you want to do and it's not on the itinerary, send us a message, write a comment because we're happy if it's possible to make that happen. So again, the itinerary it's pretty detailed, but it's not like every single step. And it looks like it's packed, but there will be time for downtime. So it's not going to be like run from A to B to C to have 5 minutes here and there. There's definitely going to be time in the itinerary for downtime. So don't get, because a lot of people worry about that.
And that is also all of it is if you're like, "Ah, I don't think I can do a group dinner. I think I need some time. I need to, for all of you introverts, if you need me time, that is also absolutely possible, of course.
Absolutely. So we're looking forward to, hearing comments, hearing suggestions, hearing questions. And Julie, we'll talk about tea in detail another time, but
Sure.
anything about food, about the culinary aspect that you'd like to mention before we wrap it up?
I know that food is always a tricky thing for people because you do have ideas of what it's going to be like. And a lot of people are like, ooh, but I can't eat this, or ooh, I've tried Chinese food at some place and I really hated it. And I've never had any complaints because that's the point is if you go in with your eyes open and if you get we won't be ordering anything that is too outrageous unless we have somebody in the group who wants something outrageous, then they can have that. So we will make it we will make it work. We will make it work in a way that benefits everyone in the group. And I would well, I see it as my personal mission to get everyone hooked on Chinese food before they leave because it's so good.
The problem is though, they'll get hooked on it and then they'll come home and they're like, well, I can't get it here. So they'll
Not
have to come
true.
back with us.
Not well, that is also that's even better. They can come back for the next edition. But also if you are every time you're in a bigger city, you can find authentic places.
Right.
It's you just need to know where to look and then you walk in and you can be like, no, I want the actual menu. I want the menu for the Chinese people who come here and
Right.
eat. And then you get the good stuff.
It's funny when Connor and was in Shanghai for his semester or year abroad, whatever, he and his partner, they ate literally everything. Like they are so adventurous. And you can be, right? It totally is like they took me to dinner and I had a lot of tofu. At the time I wasn't eating meat and I had a lot of and it was the tomato egg tofu dish, absolutely delicious. What's it called? Mabu tofu or something. Anyway, it was so good. And in fact,
Mapo
Connor,
tofu.
yeah,
Mhm.
Connor makes it now. And so again, and I really was a very strict, I wasn't vegan. There's a lot. There's a lot. And then, the bouts and I mean, there's so much food that so don't worry about it if you are vegetarian because you will it's paradise. It's the different seasonings and spices and yeah, it's so
Yeah.
delicious. So
And I think it's very different also. People tend to confuse Japanese cuisine and Chinese cuisine. In Japan, people are, it's especially like this ingredient, that ingredient, and you need to have the flavor of the single ingredients. And there's a lot less spice or a lot less, yeah, different spices that
yeah.
people use. Whereas in China, spices everything. And that means that every group, every region, every place will have their own specific way of spicing things. And that makes it, to me, makes it interesting. I mean, nothing Japanese food is amazing, but
Right. It's just different. Absolutely.
we're not
100%
going to
different.
Japan this time.
No.
So
Who knows, right? We'll start with China. And well, thank you so much, Julie. This is great. Like I said, I'm so excited. And again, just want to mention if you have questions, if you want to go to a certain thing, experience a certain thing that you've heard of, if it even exists, because we hear of a lot of things and it's like, what? So reach out. We're more than happy to accommodate whatever, if we can, whatever you want. So thank you so much, Julie. Enjoy your getaway, your vacation. I'm trying to figure out how
yes.
to stop this live. And because they changed it again. They always do this. They literally always change it. And we'll see you later. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.